there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and thanks so much for stopping by the channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make my Batilda no-sew bat pattern. Now, as you can see, we've got two different sizes of bat. We've got my jumbo bat and my mini bat here. The jumbo bat is approximately 5 inches tall, and my mini Batilda here is 1.75 inches tall. And now that's when they're crocheted to gauge. Okay. Now I've got two different sets of materials that are needed to make, depending on what size of the bat you want to make. The instructions for the bat will remain the same, no matter what size you choose to make. The only thing that changes is what materials you'll use. So let's cover those now. To make the jumbo Batilda, you're going to need some Bernat Blanket Yarn or a super bulky weight yarn. That's a size 6 yarn. And I used the black, obviously, and some white here for the eyes. I used about 35 yards in the blanket yarn to make him, and about 1 to 2 yards of the white is needed. The safety eyes here are a black glitter safety eye in a size 18 millimeter that I got from Chateau Bornet Crochet. You're going to need a 8 millimeter or M crochet hook as well. All right. Now, the materials specific to the mini bat are a worsted weight yarn or size 4 weight yarn. And for this one, I used a We Crochet Brava worsted weight yarn. This is the color silver that I used. And for that yardage, you're going to need about 20 yards in the gray. And then I used some white for the eyes here. And I used about 1 to 2 yards for that as well. For your safety eyes, I used a 9 millimeter black safety eye for the mini bat. And I used a 3.5 millimeter or E crochet hook. Now, the rest of the materials that I'm going to share are the same for both sized toys. So you're going to need polyfill stuffing. The amount that you'll need will vary obviously per size, but you will need polyfill stuffing to stuff your toy. You'll need a tapestry needle, a stitch marker, a pair of scissors, and a scrap piece of yarn. So I'm going to cover a few notes before we hop into the pattern that you'll need to keep in mind when you're making your toy. Now, gauge isn't vital to the finished project, but I will cover gauge later in case you want your toys to all turn out to be the same size, especially if you're making this for markets. Matching the little gauge swatch will help you have your toys all look as close to the same size as possible. You know, we're all human, so there could be some minor variances, but we'll cover that. And I recommend using a consistent tension throughout the project to ensure that the fabric is tight and there's no holes where the stuffing can show through. Now, both of these projects can be done in either regular single crochet, which I'm going to do, or the yarn under single crochet. Just keep in mind that the yarn under single crochet can change the size of the toy and how much yarn that you use. And if you're new to yarn under single crochet, but you want to give it a try, I have a tutorial here on the channel that you can check out to try that small change in your technique for doing the single crochet to make your bats. So let me clear off my workspace here and we'll hop on into making our Batilda no-sew bat. All right, so we're getting ready to start our bat. And as I mentioned already, I'm going to be using this worsted weight yarn to make it easier for you to see. So we're going to start our bat with a technique called the magic circle. To start your magic circle, you're going to lay your tail end of your yarn across your palm and pin it down with your thumb. Then grabbing the working end of the yarn, you're going to wrap it around the back of your fingers and bring it to the front. Then cross the working yarn over your yarn tail to create an X. Then we're going to maintain tension on the working end of the yarn while we flip our hand over like so. And then pin the working yarn down between our ring finger and our pinky finger. So you should have these 2 strands on your hand. Then you're going to grab your crochet hook and insert it under the first strand and over the second. And then you're going to use your hook to pull that second strand out and under the first strand. Then you're going to give that a twist. And what you're going to need to have happen here is this little cross in your yarn, which creates a temporary loop on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over with the working yarn and pull that yarn through the temporary loop on your hook. And you've just finished your magic circle. So what you can do is you can remove your fingers from the circle and your yarn tail will be inside the ring. You're going to take your yarn tail and remove it from the ring. And now you're ready to start crocheting round 1. So for round 1, we're going to work 6 single crochets into the magic circle. So make sure that you're holding your yarn tail parallel to the ring, because we're going to be crocheting over the tail when we work into the ring. So we're going to insert our hook into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops. That's your first single crochet. And so we need to do 5 more. So we're going to go back into the ring, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. That's your second single crochet completed. So we'll do this again together. Into the ring, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And that's your third single crochet completed. So we need to have 6 single crochets, so we need to add 3 more into the ring. There's 4, 5, and 6. Now you know you have 6 stitches if you take a look at the top of your work and you find these V's all along the top. You never count the loop on your hook as a stitch or a chain, and you're going to start counting from the hook away from the hook. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that first one likes to sneak down off to the side a little bit, and there's 6. So if you have 6 V's along the top of your work, grab your yarn tail and pull your magic ring closed. Okay, and this is what the end of round 1 should look like. And so you should have 6 stitches, and we're getting ready to move into round 2. Make sure that you have your stitch marker handy, because we're going to need that in just a moment. So now we're moving into round 2. For round 2, we have to work a single crochet increase into each stitch around. So we're going to do that together. We're going to insert our hook into that very first stitch, and that might be a little tight. Just have some patience and get your hook in there. And then we're going to work 2 single crochets into that first stitch. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And now when you're done making that stitch, you want your stitch marker, and you're going to place it under both loops of that stitch you just created, because we want to mark the first stitch of every round and move it up as we progress through our toy. So we've worked 1 single crochet, and now we're going to go back into that very same stitch that we just worked into and work a second single crochet. So back into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And so that's your single crochet increase completed. A single crochet increase is when you work 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. And so we've done 1, and we need to work 5 more. So we're going to go into that next stitch and work 1 single crochet, back into the same stitch and work our second single crochet. Okay, and one more time together into the next stitch. There's 1 single crochet, back into the same stitch. There's our second single crochet. So if you'd like to pause your video and work a single crochet increase into each of the remaining 3 stitches, at the end of this round, you should have 12 single crochet stitches. I'll meet you back here at the end of the round. So I just finished round 2. We're moving into round 3. We're going to remove that stitch marker out of the way so we can work our first stitches. Our first stitch of round 3 is 1 single crochet into that first stitch. So into the first stitch and single crochet. And then don't forget to move up your stitch marker and place it into that first stitch. And now we're going to work a single crochet increase into this next stitch here. So again, that's 2 single crochets worked into the same stitch. So there's 1, back into the same stitch, and here's 2. Now what we've just done is called a pattern repeat. We did 1 single crochet into the first stitch and 2 single crochets or a single crochet increase into the next. And if you're following along with the written pattern, it would show 1 single crochet increase, and it tells us we have to do that 6 times. So if we've already done this once, that means we need to do it 5 more times. So let's start our next pattern repeat, which is 1 single crochet into the first stitch and a single crochet increase into the next. And that's our next repeat completed. Let's do that again together. 1 single crochet into the first stitch, single crochet increase into the next. And that's our third pattern repeat completed. We need to do that 3 more times. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into the first stitch and a single crochet increase into the next, I'll meet you at the end of the row. At the end of this row, you should have 18 single crochet stitches. All right, so we just finished round 3. We have 18 stitches around our piece. And at this point, if you're wanting to match gauge to make sure that your toy turns out to be a specific size, this is where in the pattern we have our gauge check. And so I'm just going to remove my hook for just a moment. And now if you're using the blanket yarn or the super bulky weight yarn, you would measure across your piece, and that should measure 2.5 inches across. Now I'm doing a smaller version, and so I'm going to use my tape measure here, and I measure front loop to front loop across the widest point of my piece. And when I'm using the worsted weight yarn, it's just over an inch. So we'd probably want to estimate that at about an inch because, you know, it's going to be very slight changes. From 1 inch is going to not matter a whole lot. So we'll go 1 front loop to front loop. We'll say it's about an inch using the worsted weight yarn and this 3.5 millimeter hook. So now we're going to move on to round 4. And in round 4, we're going to create the ears for our bat. So we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way. And in this first stitch, we're going to work 1 single crochet. So now that that stitch is completed, we'll move up our stitch marker. And in this next stitch, we're going to do a bobble stitch. Now we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that stitch. Okay, we'll yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. You should have 2 loops remaining on your hook. So now we're going to repeat that 4 more times. So we're going to yarn over and insert back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 4 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. Now you should have 3 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and go back into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 5 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. Now you should have 4 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over, go back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 6 loops on your hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And now you have 5 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over and go back into the same stitch one last time, yarn over and pull up a loop. Should have 7 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Now you should have 6 loops on your hook. And now we're going to finish this stitch. We're going to yarn over and slowly pull through all 6 loops on our hook. And that creates our bobble stitch. Now, the bobble is going to want to naturally pop inwards as we're working. And so as when we get to a later point, we'll pop that outwards so the ear pops up to the outside of the fabric rather than the inside. So now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 8 stitches. So if your bobble covers up that next stitch, it could easily hide that. So make sure that you're taking a look and you're actually working into the very next stitch and it hasn't been hidden by the bobble. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, And there is 8. So I've got my bobble on this side and 8 single crochets. And at this point, I'm just going to take my fingers and pop that bobble to the right side. We might need to do that again later as we progress, but right now it's popped to the front of the fabric now. So now we're going to do the other ear, and that means we're doing another bobble stitch. So we're going to yarn over and insert into this very next stitch here. Yarn over and pull up a loop. There's 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 only. Then we're going to yarn over and insert back into the same stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. There should be 3 loops on your hook now. Then we're going to yarn over and insert into that same stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. Now there should be 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and insert into the stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops only. You should have 5 loops on your hook now. Yarn over and insert into that stitch one last time. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. You should have 6 loops on your hook. Now we're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 loops on your hook to complete your bobble stitch. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 7 stitches. So again, make sure that your bobble's not covering up the very next stitch, and insert your hook in there and single crochet. So there's 1, 3, 4, and there's 7. Now at the end of this row, we still have 18 stitches, and you can see the difference between my bobble being popped out to the right side and it being on the wrong side. So I'm just going to pop that bobble to the right side of the fabric. Now, if you're struggling to do that, I like to use the tip of my hook and just kind of gently push it outwards. Or in this case, I like the blunt end a little better. There you go. All right, so this is where we're at. We've got our little bobbles. It's not looking like a whole lot yet, but we're getting there. All right, so I just finished round 4 and I have 18 stitches, and we're moving into round 5. Now for round 5, we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So I've moved my stitch marker. I'm going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Move that up. Now, when you get to your bobble stitches, you want to make sure that you're actually working under both loops of the stitch and that your hook is not catching onto parts of the bobble and drawing it into your stitch. So if you need to do the following, like just use your thumb and pull the bobble forward so you can see that stitch more clearly, feel free to do that because it'll make it a little easier on you. So we're just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So if you'd like to pause your video and meet me here at the end of the round, we have to do something here in round 5 for our safety eyes before moving on to round 6. So work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, and I'll meet you back here at the end of the round. All right, so I just finished round 5. I still have my 18 stitches, and what we're going to be doing is we need to put our stitch marker or a scrap piece of yarn in for our safety eyes, so that way we can come back to the point to put them in once we've got enough space for the washers or the backs of our safety eyes here to go onto our toy without hindering us from crocheting. So I like to use just a piece of scrap yarn, and our instructions say that we're going to put our safety eyes into stitches 5 and 9 of round 5. So we've got our stitch marker in round 1, in stitch 1, and we're going to count over 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm going to place my finger right next to that stitch and insert my hook through the stitch, like so. Then I'm going to grab my scrap piece of yarn and I'm going to hook it onto the hook and pull it through to the right side of my fabric. So I want the tail end hanging out here, while the other end is loose because I'm going to pull it through the second stitch. So I've got stitch 5 and then 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm going to put my finger next to stitch 9, insert my hook through stitch 9 to the back of the work, pick up the yarn and pull that through. Now, I like to hold down the first end so that way I don't pull that end out accidentally while I'm pulling through my second end. And there we go. We've got our markers here in stitch 5 and 9 of round 5. Now for round 6, we're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. And so we need to make sure when we go into stitches 5 and 9 in the next round that we don't pick up that loose piece of yarn or a scrap yarn there, because we need to be able to pull it out like easily later. So I've got my first stitch and I'm just going to work up into stitch 5 here just to show you. So again, we're working 1 single crochet into each stitch around. I've got to stitch 5 now, and as you can see, we've got that yarn on the inside, we've got the yarn on the front, and I'm just going to take my fingers and push down both sides of the yarn while I insert my hook to make sure that I don't hook onto that scrap piece when I'm working my single crochet. Okay, so if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each stitch around, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 6 to show you how we move in to round 7. So I just finished round 6 and this is what our piece looks like so far. And we've got this extra little yarn tail here from our magic circle that we made at the beginning. Now at this point, I recommend not going any further until you've either woven in this end or secured it in some way. I like to just do a couple of knots in that tail as close to the fabric as I can, especially with the project when it is this small, to help make sure that that magic ring from the beginning isn't going to come apart. All right, so I've tied a couple of knots and I'm just going to cut my tail a little shorter so it doesn't get in our way here, so it doesn't hinder what you can see. And then if you want, you can just tuck the tail inside and use it as stuffing later. All right, so now we're ready to move on to round 7. In round 7, we're going to be adding the wings of our bat. So we're going to start round 7 by moving that stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to place our stitch marker back into that stitch, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that second stitch as well. So now we're going to create the first wing. To do that, we're going to start by creating a chain of 7. To do that, we're going to yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook, and that's 1. Yarn over and pull through the loop on our hook, that's 2. And we're going to continue to yarn over and pull through until we have 7 chains. So we're at 3. So we've got 7 chains here, and you can count your chains by finding the very first chain here, these little V's, and counting the V's. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We never count the yarn on our hook as a chain. So we're going to turn our work so we're working back down the chain towards the body of the bat. Starting in the second chain from the hook, this one here, we're going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. And we're going to pull that loop through the loop that was on our hook. And that's our slip stitch completed. So then we're going to do a single crochet into the next chain. So into the chain and single crochet. And into this next chain, we're going to do a half double crochet. So to do that, we'll yarn over, insert our hook into the very next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And that's your half double crochet completed. So you should have 3 chains left to be worked. And we're going to work 1 double crochet into each of those remaining chains. So we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into that very next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. There should be 2 loops remaining now on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through both remaining loops, and that's your double crochet completed. Now we're going to do that into the next chain. Yarn over and insert into the chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. And that's our next double crochet completed. And we have one more left to work in this last chain. Yarn over, insert into the chain. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2. And that's our last double crochet completed. So now we're going to take a look at the body of our bat here and find the next unworked stitch of row 6, which for me is right here. Okay, this is where we worked our last stitch before the chain, and this is our next stitch. So we're going to work 1 single crochet into that stitch. And this joins the wing to the body of the bat. And now we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches. So there's 1. All right, so I've got a total of 10 stitches, the 1 single crochet back into the body to join the wing to the body, and then 9 more. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that 1 hidden under my hook here is 10. So now we're going to create our second wing. To do that, we're going to need to create another chain of 7. So we're going to yarn over, pull through, there's 1, yarn over, pull through, there's 2. And we're going to continue to yarn over and pull through until we have 7 chains. So now that we have our chain of 7, we're going to turn our work so we're working back down the chain towards the body, and starting in the second chain from the hook, we're going to do a slip stitch. So we're going to insert into that chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull that loop through the loop on our hook. In the next stitch here, or chain, we're going to work a single crochet. And then we're going to work a half double crochet into that next chain. So yarn over, insert into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. And now you should have 3 chains left to work, and we're going to work 1 double crochet into each of those chains. So yarn over, insert into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Into the next chain, yarn over and insert into the chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And one last time, yarn over and insert into that last chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And so now we're going to take a look and find the next unworked stitch of round 6 of the body, and that's this stitch right here. And I'm going to work 1 single crochet into that next stitch of round 6. And then I'll work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining 5 stitches. So at the end of this round, you should have 18 stitches in the body of your bat and our 2 wings. So it should look like this right now. Okay, now we're getting ready to start round 8. To start round 8, we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way. And we're going to work 1 single crochet into the first stitch. And we'll move up our stitch marker. And then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. You might need to pull your wing over to the side a little bit to see that stitch, but you have a single crochet here before you get to that actual wing. So I've worked 1 single crochet into that second stitch. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip this wing, and we want to make sure that we're pulling it or pushing it to the right side of our fabric. Now, if you're not sure what the right side of the fabric is, when you're doing amigurumi, the right side should always be facing you. And this whole time, the right side has been facing me. But if you're unfamiliar with what that looks like, the wrong side, it's hard to see with how small this toy is, but if you see these little vertical bars, these indicate that that's the wrong side of the stitch, and that's the wrong side of your fabric. Okay, so we want the wings to be on the outside of the toy. So we're going to skip the wing and work a single crochet into that very next stitch. So I'm going to work one single crochet into that stitch, and we want it to be relatively tight because what that's going to do is it's going to pinch the top of the wing closed, and it's going to start to angle that wing so it faces up the right way. All right. So then we're going to work one single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches. All right, so I've finished my 9 single crochets. Now we have to skip the next wing. So we're going to skip this next wing here, and we're going to single crochet into the very next stitch. Okay, so again, we want that to be relatively tight. We don't want it to be too loosey-goosey, or else it won't pull our wings up the way we want it to. So into that next stitch here, we do our single crochet. All right. Then we're going to work one single crochet into each of the remaining stitches. At the end of this round, you should still have 18 stitches. And we'll take a minute here and I'll just show you what happens to our wings when we skip them in the stitches. It turns the wings the right side up. So you've got the round side of the wing facing upwards. All right. So at this point, we've crocheted past the point where we can safely insert our safety eyes. So I'm going to grab those now. For this small bat, I'm using 9mm safety eyes, but in the larger version with the blanket yarn, like this guy here, he's got 18mm safety eyes. So I'm going to take my safety eye and insert it from the right side through each of those marked stitches that we marked with our scrap yarn or stitch markers earlier. So with the safety eyes inserted, I'm going to flip my toy inside out in order to put the backs on. So I'm going to gently turn that inside out to put the backing on. Now I've got 2 different kinds of backings here. And I want to show you when you put the safety eye washer onto the back of the safety eye, there is a specific way that it is supposed to be done. Now, a lot of safety eyes have these cup looking safety eye washers, and a lot of folks put them on incorrectly. If you put them with the cup facing up, you're actually going to make that easier for that safety eye to be pulled out. So it is meant to be put with the cup side facing your fabric. Now, I have these backs, which I tend to prefer because they are a little stiffer, and these are relatively flat. But if you take a look at them, they do have a very small cup in the middle of the washer. And the same would go with these safety eye backs as well, is that you would put the cup facing the fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to slide those on there. Pop them onto the back of my eyes. And now I'm going to pull the yarn tail out of that stitch now that I have the eye back on there. And then I'm going to place the washer onto the other eye. And then I can pull my scrap yarn all the way out. And I'm going to turn my toy So the right side is facing me. And we're ready to move on. So we're going to do something a little different in round 9. We're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to start by working 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Put your stitch marker into the stitch, and then we're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch. So for this part, what we're going to do is we're going to insert our hook through the last double crochet of the wing. So if you take a look at your wing, there is 1 stitch very close to the fabric. That's your last double crochet. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a hook through the last double crochet of the wing, and then we're going to also insert it through the next stitch of the round. And then we're going to single crochet. So why we're doing that, and I'm just going to pull this up so I can show you, is that it's going to help hold the wing in place. It's going to help it be secure so it's not twisting around on you. You're just anchoring the wing in its current position. Okay? So then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the next 9 stitches. All right, so we've worked our 9 stitches, and now we need to anchor the next wing. So again, we want to find the V's on the bottom of the wing and find the stitch closest to the fabric, which is the last double crochet that we created. Then we're going to insert our hook through that stitch. Then we're going to insert our hook also through the next stitch of the round. Then we're going to single crochet as normal. Okay. Then we're going to work 1 single crochet into each of the remaining stitches. At the end of this round, you should have 18 stitches. All right, so we're ready to move into round 10. Round 10 and 11 are worked the same way. We're going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. So I'm going to work my first stitch, move up my stitch marker, and then I'm just going to work 1 single crochet into each stitch around. If you'd like to pause your video and work 1 single crochet into each stitch around for rounds 10 and 11, I'll meet you back here at the end of round 11 and show you how we're moving on to round 12. So I just finished round 11, and this is where we're going to take a moment to stop and start stuffing our bat. So I'm going to grab a little stuffing here. If you haven't stuffed a toy before, when you grab your stuffing, you want to use your fingers to fluff up and separate the fibers before inserting the stuffing into your toy. We want to stuff our toy firmly. It should feel like a ripe orange when it's stuffed properly. So add a little bit of stuffing as you work. Use your fingers to feel around inside the toy and find any areas that feel like they could use some stuffing, where there's gaps in the stuffing, and then add some of the stuffing. You don't need to complete your stuffing at this point because we're going to continue to add some more as we progress. And I'm going to leave my stuffing here for now, so that way we can clearly see what we're doing moving forward. Okay, so moving into round 12, we're going to start closing up our bat. So we're going to move our stitch marker out of the way, and we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch. Then we're going to take our stitch marker and place it into the first stitch. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. And a single crochet decrease takes 2 stitches and turns it into 1. And so when we're doing amigurumi, we want to do a decrease. We want it to be as invisible on the surface of our fabric as possible. So we're going to use a technique called the invisible decrease. And I'll show you how to do that now. So when you take a look at your stitches, you have 2 loops on the top of each stitch. The one furthest from you is called the back loop, and the one closest to you here is called the front loop. We need to work our stitches into the front loop only. So we're going to take our hook and insert it up and under the front loop only of the first stitch. And we're going to twist our hook a little bit and use our hook to grab the front loop only of the next stitch. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And then we're going to yarn over and pull through both loops on our hook. And that's an invisible decrease. And we've turned 2 stitches into 1. So what we've done is our first pattern repeat, and our pattern repeat for this round is single crochet once into the first stitch, followed by a single crochet decrease. And our pattern tells us we have to do this a total of 6 times. So since we've done that once, we have to do it 5 more times. So let's do it together again. Insert your hook into the next stitch and single crochet. And then we're going to do a single crochet decrease. So again, insert your hook up and under the front loop only of the first stitch, up and under the front loop only of the next stitch, and then yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both loops. So it's just like doing a regular single crochet, except for you're working it through the front loops of the first and second stitch. So that's our next pattern repeat completed. We're going to do it again. 1 single crochet into the next stitch. And now we're going to do our next decrease. So up and under the front loop only of the first and second stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through both loops. Helps when your yarn doesn't split. There we go. So that's our next decrease completed. So we need to do that 3 more times. We need to do that 1 single crochet into the first stitch, followed by a decrease 3 more times. So if you'd like to pause your video and meet me back here in just a moment, I'll show you how we're moving on to round 13. All right, so I just finished my last repeat, and I forgot to mention before we pause that you should have 12 stitches at the end of round 12. So at this point in our toy, our next round is going to close up our toy. So this is really the best and last chance that you're going to have to finish stuffing your toy. I'm going to take a moment here and add some more stuffing. I think we're good here. And then we're going to work on round 13. So in round 13, we're going to do that single crochet decrease that we did in round 12, but we're going to do that 6 times. So we'll do that together. Let's move our stitch marker out of the way. And then we're going to do a decrease over the first and second stitch. So again, we're going to go up and under the front loop only of the first and second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. Then we're going to move our stitch marker into that first stitch. And we're going to do that again. Insert your hook under the front loop only. Now, if you're having a hard time in this last round, which I often do, getting up and under the front loop only, you can turn your hook so you use the tip of the hook there to go up and under and grab that front loop for you. So we're going to go up and under the front loop of the first and second stitch. And then we'll single crochet. Okay, and then we'll do that again, up and under the front loop only of the first and second stitch, and then single crochet. Up and under the front loop of the first and second stitch, and then single crochet. Up and under the front loop only of the first and second stitch, then single crochet. And last one here, up and under the front loops only of the first and second stitch, and single crochet. So at this point, if you have something pointy, like I know that some of the stuffing boxes come with a little, lack of a better word, chopstick, like a little wooden skewer or something, you can maybe get a little bit more stuffing in through there. I think mine's pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to finish off our toy. So I'm going to cut my yarn and leave a tail of at least 6 to 8 inches. Then I'm going to pull the yarn all the way through my last stitch. Now we're going to need to grab our tapestry needle. We're going to weave our yarn end onto the tapestry needle. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a technique called the ultimate finish. And if you need to see this done slower, or you want to see it in more depth and more about its uses, you can find a tutorial here on the blog for it. But I'll show you how we're going to do it to close our toy. And it's going to finish this edge so it's nice and flat. So we're going to move that stitch marker out of that first stitch. And we're going to take our tapestry needle and put it up and under the front loop only of each stitch around. So up and through the first stitch. And as we're pulling our needle through, we're pulling the yarn through the stitch. Oh goodness. Sorry, my yarn split there. Let's try that again. So again, up and under the first stitch, or the next stitch here, the front loop only, and we're just doing that all the way around. And we're pulling our yarn so it's tight against the stitch as we're working through the front loop only. We want to be conscious that we're working through the front loop only. We're not we're not going through the actual yarn, because that could make it more difficult to close your toy up. So we want to make sure that we're cleanly going up and under that front loop only. Okay. So now that we've gone through all the front loops of the last round, we're going to tug on our yarn to close the hole. Okay. And then you're likely going to have this little nub, right? I mean, if this was a bee, I mean, come on, cute, right? But we're not making a bee, we're making a bat. So we need to fix this little nub here because we don't want it to be there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our tapestry needle and insert it through the small hole in the center of the last round. See this little hole here? We're going to insert our needle through that hole and somewhere, anywhere out in the body, making sure that you're coming through one of the holes in the stitches. You're not coming through any of the yarn. Okay, because if you split the yarn and you go through the yarn, you're going to damage your toy. So you want to come through one of the holes, pull your tapestry needle all the way through, and then as we're pulling the yarn, watch what happens to the bottom of our toy. It flattens it right up. Okay, so then what we're going to do then, we're going to weave in our ends. So when you're weaving in ends for amigurumi, you can either take your needle and try to go in through behind the stitches, through the posts of the stitches, or you can tie several knots into your yarn, and that's the method I'm choosing today. Going to tie several knots on top of each other. I like to get them as close to the fabric as I can, especially with a toy this size, because what we're going to do with these knots is I'm going to insert my needle back through the same stitch that it came out of and bring it through somewhere else in the toy. And again, I want to make sure I'm coming through one of the holes in the stitches. I'm not going through any of the yarn and splitting any of the yarn anywhere. So then we're going to pull that all the way through, and I'm going to pull it so that knot goes inside the toy. Now, if you have a little indent or it looks like it made the hole slightly bigger, you can take your needle, insert it into the stitch directly next to the dent, and use the tip of your needle to pull the fabric up gently. You don't want to yank on it really hard. It's just a gentle tug to put it back in place. And now I'm going to repeat that maybe 2 or 3 more times, because what's going to happen when I'm doing this is that the knots are getting stuck in the stuffing and making it harder for it to come unraveled. So for the sake of our time here, I'm just going to do this twice. Again, I'm going to go back into the same stitch I came out of, bring my needle out through somewhere else in the toy, and pull the needle inside, the knot inside the toy. Right. Once I'm happy with how many times I've woven it in, I'm going to pull on that yarn tail and snip the yarn as close to the toy as possible, putting tension on the yarn so when I snip it, it will get pulled back inside the toy. If it didn't go all the way back inside your toy, you can use the tip of your scissors or your needle or whatever you have and safely use it to push the tip of the needle or the yarn back inside. So this is what our little bat looks like right now, and I think he's super cute. Now, if you find that your wings are curling when they're not wanting to stay straight, what you can do is you can very gently pin down your wings and steam block them gently. But I think it's kind of cute once they get a little curly, but he's fine right now. Or you can just kind of give it a little tug to put them in place. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some embellishment to the eyes. And we're going to cut a piece of yarn in white. I like to go way longer than I need, so I'm going to go probably like 10 inches at least of white yarn. Then I'm going to thread that on to my tapestry needle. And I'm ready to add some whites to my eyes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the tip of my needle and insert it through any stitch in the back of the eye. Again, we want to make sure we're working through the holes in the stitches, not through the actual stitches themselves. And I'm going to bring my needle out at either the bottom or the top of the eye. It doesn't matter, whatever you're most comfortable with and what it's easiest for you. So I'm going to come out here at the bottom center point of the eye. I'm going to pull the yarn through. Now what I want to do is I'm going to leave a yarn tail of a couple inches on the back so I can tie the two ends together. I've come out to the center bottom point of the eye. I'm going to wrap my yarn around the outside of the eye, and I'm going to go into the stitch at the center top of the eye. And now when I go into that stitch, I'm going to angle my needle so I come out at the center top point of the opposite eye. I'm going to pull that through. I'm going to use my finger to kind of tuck the white down around the edge of the eye and pull that tight. Okay? That's what it looks like. Then we're going to take the needle and go through the center bottom of the opposite eye. And what I like to do is I like to try to bring my needle out through the same stitch I went into. Okay, so I'm going to hold my yarn tail out of the way and come out through the same stitch I started my embroidery in. I'm going to pull that through, turn it around so I can keep an eye on how that's going to lay next to the safety eye there. Want it to be even. There we go. Maybe give that a little bit more of a tug. All right, there we go. So there he is. And now I'm going to finish my embroidery by turning my toy over, and I'm going to tie a knot in my yarn. Both ends of the yarn, I'm going to tie a knot. You can tie 2 knots, whatever makes you feel most comfortable with it. I like to do 2 or 3. And then what I'm going to do is take my tapestry needle, insert it back into that same stitch, and come out anywhere else in the toy. Again, making sure we're going through the hole in the stitch. And then I'm going to pull that knot inside the toy. Okay, now I'm going to cut that yarn. Okay, then we're going to add my needle to the other end. You could cut it now if you really wanted to, but I like to put the yarn inside, it makes me feel better. So I'm going to come out through, again, another hole in a stitch somewhere, pull that yarn tail in, and then give it a little snip. And again, I've got a little bit of a hole there, so I'm just going to use my needle pick up that fabric and fix that. All right, and there he is. There's our little mini no-sew bat. He was so fun to make, and I hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave them in the comment section below, and I'd love to see your finished bats. So if you are sharing them on social media, please tag me at the Loopy Lamb or use the hashtag the Loopy Lamb, and I'll love to see them, and I'll try to share as many as I can in my stories as well. I hope that you found this helpful. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to this channel. If you like free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com, where we've got hundreds of free crochet patterns and step-by-step video tutorials just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.